obey my order.
Hello and welcome Exiles to a build where the name of the game was simply to stack ES. Now previously I have done this before with a build where I did Ivory Tower and I was trying to see how much I could get out of Ivory Tower. Now this character, I wanted to see how competitive could a mana int stacking Guardian Hierophant hybrid be in comparison to that build. Now previously the other way was about stacking life and then turning that life into energy shield. This build was about stacking int, mana, and then turning that mana into ES via things like the Hierophant node that gives gain mana as ES, Watcher's Eye gain mana is ES, Forbidden Flesh and Flame reserved mana gives you ES. The idea is you stack a lot of int, you get a lot of mana from that, you get a lot of percent mana, that gives you a high mana pool, and then you turn that mana into ES, and then stacking the int also gives you percent energy shield. That's the idea. On this character, I had about 2,400. Previously, I had solely a character that was just about stacking int and ES, and I got to about 42,000, but I changed a few things just to make it do viable damage, so that way I could test it on like Uber Shaper and see how it felt to fight a Uber Shaper with this amount of ES. Spoiler, when you have this amount of ES, even if you don't have any extra defensive layers, it makes that fight a joke, because you can tank so many things, because raw EHP, you just have 42,000, and when you scale a little bit of percent regen, you're scaling that percent regen based on a 42,000 pool, which means you regen quite a bit per second. For us, we regen about 5,000 per second. Even though we don't have a lot of regen investment, we simply just have a ring with a little bit of regen on it, and then a little bit of regen from a flask mod. Regen is not a lot of investment, but when you have so much ES, you get actually a lot of regen. It makes fights like that a little bit trivial, and you mix in something like Wicked Ward, and Wicked Ward all of a sudden is, you have all the time in the world for this recharge to start, and when it starts, it's going to take you back to full, and there's nothing the enemy can do about it. Now, simply put, I've come to the conclusion that Ivory Tower is still going to be a bit better, because that previous build I did, although I did some cheese mechanics, got to about 54k, this character got to about 42. I think if I had better, like, you know, min-max crafted gear, I think this character could have got to 50k, but I think also, previously when I did that other build, I didn't have access to things like Forbidden Flesh and Flame. I have that now, and that would have also leveraged in favor of that character, I believe. So, moral of the story is, I just wanted to compare something like Guardian going for Ivory Tower scaling versus a mana approach, versus the strength int approach versus the just int mana approach. So I wanted to compare those two. That was the main goal I had today, and that's moral of the story is I found out Ivory Tower, in my opinion, is still the best way if you want to get the highest energy shield number for a solo player. Basically, the reason I don't have 42,000 energy shield is the way I decided to get damage is I gutted my tree a little bit just so I could get Lucky Lightning and then Elemental Overload. So I changed my pathing just to pick up those two things, which allowed me to go for Blade Trap. I decided would maybe be my best bet in terms of a skill that scales well with an ephemeral edge for the flat lightning based on your energy shield pool. And it's enough to do Shaper DPS-wise, but man, is this terrible clear-wise. My throw speed's just absolutely awful. It feels terrible to clear with, and it's really not that great DPS. But that's, of course, because I didn't really optimize for damage. I optimized for just making a character that was a lot of ES and see how it went. This is never meant to be a real build. I think in the future, I might want to take and try to make a real build specifically around this, but I think when I do it, I'm going to go Guardian and I'm going to go Ivory Tower. Personally, if I wanted to make this character better, I would have been a Guardian and I would steal the Hierophant node, but the Hierophant node Sanctuary, I thought, is like 90 divines, whereas the Guardian Radiant Faith is like 30, so it felt more affordable for me to go for the play a Hierophant and then get the Guardian node, even though I think Guardian would objectively be a better base ascendancy if you want to be generically powerful, because Hierophant really wants you to be either totem based or you can be spell based, but it just feels bad. The spell nodes in Hierophant just don't feel very strong in my opinion. Okay, anyways, with that out of the way, that was the idea of this character. My approach was basically pathing all the way around, mana, and then a lot of value out of split personalities. Originally, I was actually getting around 110 out of my split personalities. I actually probably want to showcase to you the previous setup I had, because it just objectively was just better at stacking the mana to begin with, and I would have fun showcasing that, I think. So let me go ahead and respec these nodes and get that spec done correctly. Because originally it was through these nodes, through mana. Do I have a little bit more points to spec out here? I originally was not grabbing this. I just want to showcase the difference in mana, the difference in ES, just because I think it's fun to look at. Big ES numbers are enjoyable in my opinion. I do enjoy them. And it's something that I like to do in terms of just a thought experiment. So that's more or less what I was going for there, and that's what I was doing. I spec'd around here, and originally I had gone this way, through here. I'll refund these points. And then we had also gone down this way through the mana. And I did not grab Elemental Overload. And also I have to spec this way. What's the other nodes I have to give up that I have to change from what I have currently? Don't know if initially I grabbed these or not. I need enough to spec this, but I went all around this way. And this, spec this, spec the gain. Is that 110 now? 105, 105. That's basically right. I'm missing 2 for the int node here. And then I had shield. Yeah, so 43,000. Actually, I got over 42k. I got to 43,000. I think this is roughly what I had set up. It's a wacky, weird tree, but it was basically just me trying to come up with something that would optimize for going for int and mana. Hence, I was pathing through a lot of the areas where there was a lot of strong mana, and even then I ran out of points because I couldn't even get like these clusters. I'm only level 98, technically I was level 100. I could get a couple more passives. Technically, I could have a chest that's 700 ES instead of 550 if it was better crafted, yada yada yada. I think we get this to 50k with like S tier gear sort of thing, but still that would be short of the 54k, and the 54k wasn't optimized for the current things and tools we have available to us now. Long story short is, I had some fun making this character. It was about stacking energy shield just to see how high I could get the number to go with a solo player. Obviously, if you do this sort of route, this is not, realistically, this setup is not viable build setup. This is just stacking ES. I think in the future, this is something I will attempt to do as a real, like, reasonable character. Probably next League. Maybe early on in League when the Forbidden Flame and Flushes market isn't blown out of the water. I'll maybe try to make a Guardian version of the build, maybe go for Righteous Providence, maybe go for the mana node from Hierophant. I'm not sure what approach I would take. I would even be tempted to try to make a Righteous Fire character where I stack just a massive ES pool and see how I can make that work. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But this is really just me just trying something out and seeing how it would go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video of just this weird character I was making, just something for fun. And as always, hopefully you guys enjoy yourselves. Take care, Exiles, and peace out. Have a good one.